finally gotten around to posting my deck list from Mario's Gaming World circuit last Wednesday, and I wanted to go over, the choices that I made based on the meta onto why I picked these things for my deck. As some of you may know, I played Security Control in a 64-person tournament for Mario's Gaming World, and I placed second in that tournament, losing to Commandramon rookie Security Control. It was a really cool list to play against, and it's one of the decks that does really, really well against my deck. And the deck that I built, I really wanted to have an out for every single deck that I play against with Security Control, and unfortunately this deck had literally no answers to the Commandramon deck. So I unfortunately was 2-0'd. The only matches that I lost the entire tournament were to this Commandramon Security Control. So it's a great game all in all, and I really, really enjoyed myself in the tournament. Without further ado, let's hop into the deck list. So for rookies, I'm playing for Salamon. The Salamon is a recover 1 on deletion if I have 3 or less security. This card basically always ensures that you're topping your security back up when you need to. If you're ever at 3, you want to top up, hit that 4, and make sure that you can top up your security back up to 5, 6, 7 if you need to, with other cards that do that. So Salamon's always great. It's always a card that if you Digivolve into, it's always a free recovery, so it's always nice. We're playing one Lucemon. This actually came up a lot more than I thought it was going to. I didn't really have a lot of room for another Lucemon. I was debating removing the Sora and Joe to play a second Lucemon, but I actually was able to get this card off a lot of times, especially off of Magnedramon's effect to swing and play a rookie. I got a lot of recovery out of this card, so I definitely would keep this at 1 and just leave it there. It's really, really good. I'm playing 4 Magnedramon. On play, recover 1's been fantastic. He's kind of the bread and butter of this deck. He lets you get security, lets you get advantage early game, and he can Digivolve into your yellow Digimon like Sakuyamon and Magnedramon and generate you, more control and also more advantage, like off of the fact of Magnedramon to play Lucemon. So that's always a great play, is hard calling your Magnedramon and then going into a Magnedramon and then swinging and playing a Lucemon and recovering 1, Magnedramon giving you additional security, additional DP, depending on how much security you have, is also very helpful. Lets you swing over things with your Magnedramon and not risk it dying in security. Playing 4 Magnedramon in this deck. I actually think this is kind of overkill. Revisiting the deck, I probably wouldn't play 4 Magnedramon, maybe 3 and something else. Magnedramon was really, really good, but I never really used her on play as much as I thought I was going to. I think it only ever came into play like 3 or 4 times over all of my games. And I always had her in my hand and never actually needed her to come back in a game. So, or if I did need her, I had her. It was never really never really mattered. I saw her in security more than I really wanted to as well. But I think 3 of these might be good, or maybe just 2 of them. I don't know. I have to do some playtesting, but Magnedramon definitely came in clutch in certain scenarios, but could be changed. Moving on to Sakuyamon, this card is insane. It's so good against Jesmon, it's so good against Gobobond, it's so good against Agumon. It does so much work against those decks because its effect is persistent. If they move out, they get the minus security effect. Even if they die, if she dies, they still keep it, or if she's removed from the field. So really, really good card. Also being able to minus security DP is fantastic as well, so she can swing in kind of uninhibited if you know she's not going to be swung over in the next turn. So really great card and counters a lot of meta decks. I didn't play against any Jesmon, but she would be really good against Jesmon. Even if they Judgment the Blade swing over her, they at most will get 2 checks in, so it's really, really good card. Sakuyamon definitely would keep going forward. Machinedramons. This card was okay. I never really played it. It was there. I think there was one game that I hard played it. I think I had it a lot of times in my hand, but there was always just better plays. And it's not a card that's really great against the matchups that I would need a blocker for. So I'm thinking about taking him out. D-Digivolve isn't super relevant in this format because decks that you want to D-Digivolve are usually hanging out and raising. And then decks that, you actually want to Digivolve that aren't hanging out and raising, Ultimate Flare is better, or, it's kind of relevant to play the Machinedramon. Ultimate Flare is just better than Machinedramon in that scenario. I think I might play Craniamon instead. It handles the bad matchups better than Machinedramon does. It's immune to deletion, whereas Machinedramon's only 11k, Craniamon's 12k, and it only costs 1 more to play. So, I think I'd take Machinedramon's out, but pretty good card regardless. Maybe some more playtesting, maybe against different matchups it's better, but it's pretty relevant against Gobobond, Jesmon, and Algubond. It's also relevant against Three Musketeers, and it's relevant against the mirror matchup. So, and against Commandramon as well, it's pretty relevant. So those would seem to be like the most played decks this format. So this card's pretty relevant against most of those. So I don't think I'd play it in this format anymore. Moving on to Ornismon. This card is insane. This card is so good. Being able to pop a level 5 and then have a body that gives you security tech +1, it caught a lot of people off guard, and they didn't have the tools to deal with it. And especially when I'm running the tamer setup that I am, I always have a lot of memory. And because of the memory that I consistently have, being able to hard play this card and only give your opponent 2 or 3 memory is pretty absurd. And it forces them to deal with it right away, because not only do they have to deal with the Ornismon Secure Attack +1, he's a 12k beater, but he also removes a level 5 or lower from the board and puts pressure on your opponent. Also, he's a way that you can Digivolve into Omnimon Zord Defeat if you get a Zord Defeat in your hand. So really, really great card. Puts a ton of pressure on your opponent and forces them to answer it. If they can't answer it, you basically win the game. So I love Ornismon. I definitely keep it at 2. It's fantastic the way it is. 4 is Zord Defeat, because Zord Defeat is absolutely insane. Card comes out of security and just does Zord Defeat things. Coupled with Ty and Matt, you know, checking 2 or 3 security in a turn is pretty insane for a card that you didn't have to pay to play. And his Undulation effect, because people usually have to deal with him, is pretty absurd as well. Moving on to my Tamers, Ty and Matt giving me bonus memory when the level 6 is on board. Came into play more than I thought it would. I actually might just lower it to 1, and I might play another Izzy Joe, because Izzy Joe is bonkers card. But yeah, it came into play a little bit. In this current meta, there's not a lot of decks that you're going to have a level 6 out against you. There's a few of them. I mean, obviously, Jessamon, you'll have a level 6 out after they've done their swinging. Agumon, you're not going to see it. Three Musketeers, it'll be useful, but it's useful in certain decks, but not a lot of them. But I think maybe 1 or 2 of these is the right amount. Izzy and Joe, card's really, really good. It counters what you want to do against security control, which is go wide, and the more of these that you have out, the better it is. And when you have this plus Sora and Joe out, it's just like your opponent's just like screwed. They are between a rock and a hard place, and I think I might take away Time Out and play another Sora and Joe, just because it really like hinders your opponent, because they can't really go wide against you, but they also can't hard play like Ultimates and Megas because they get punished for that as well. So that's why I like this combination of Tamers. Also, of course, 2 Black Easy Izumis, because being able to see your next 3 cards and manipulate what you're putting in security is pretty bonkers with security control. Option cards. I'm playing a pretty healthy mix, I think. 4 Wyvern's Breath. This card I actually didn't use that much. It came in handy sometimes, but I think maybe only 3 is really necessary in the deck. I'd rather take 1 out and you know, move it around. Having 4 Gawaltrummers might be better. There was times where it came in handy against like Gabubon, Agubon. So, you know, maybe I'll play it, but again, it's not super relevant. I never really hard casted it that many times. It was more of a security card, so we'll see if I want to tweak it, but it was a pretty good card. Minus 15k DP is great. DP removal isn't super relevant in this format right now, and not a lot of people are playing around it, so keeping in Wyvern's Breath just to deal with the Black Royal Knights matchup I think is really important. Reinforced Memory Boost. This card is absolutely freaking insane. This card should not be allowed at 4. It should be limited, I think. This card is too good. It's a Holy Wave on steroids, essentially. It's a draw 1, recover 1, and you get to choose which one you're recovering essentially out of the 2 you reveal, and giving 3 memory for only a 6 cost, which is the exact same as Holy Wave, is pretty freaking bonkers. Yes, the security effects only apply to your area, but if you have it in your area, you get 3 memory next turn. So you'll have at least 4 memory on your next turn, which for security control is pretty crazy, because you can do 2 things in 1 turn. You can play a Tamer and play an option card, which is amazing. Absolutely insane. Ultimate Flare, it's a really good card. It does do really well against certain matchups. It was really bad against Commandramon, but every other matchup it was absurd. That's why I think I want to get rid of 1 card here and put a 4th Gawaltrommer just to kind of cover my bases. But Ultimate Flare is really good. I really like the card. I'm playing 3 Gawaltrommers. This card is so good. Deleting everything under a 7 play cost is just absolutely absurd for a card. It does so much, and it's a huge threat when you get it in your hand, because your opponent constantly has to play around it. And then Iron Fisted Onslaught, deleting the highest play cost Digimon is pretty good. It works. It's a card that you want to see in your security, I think. It's fine to hard play it sometimes, depending on the matchups you're playing, but with the majority of people playing Gabubond and Jesmon and Three Musketeers, it's a card you want to see in your security. The final two option cards I'm playing are Holy Waves. These cards are good. Again, a card you want to see in your security because it just recovers you one. It lets you prolong games, and it works out pretty well against card decks like Gabubon, Jesmon, who just want to swing for game. Now, you're probably wondering, like, what do you do against those Pepsi decks, or how do you play around those Pepsi decks? And for me, it was just Tsukuyamon was the answer there. So maybe I take out 2 Magnadramons or take out 1 Magnadramon, play an extra Tsukuyamon. Tsukuyamon was really good in the meta, and I think she'll continue to be really, really good in the meta. But, you know, this deck, I really tried to look at the meta right now, look at the format, see what's strong, and play around it. And if you looked at the tournament, a lot of security control people were in the top 16 of the tournament. A lot of Gabubond, and then 1 Commandramon D-Brigade. And I think that I could have beaten Commandramon D-Brigade if I was more aware of the deck in the format. The last week, it came second, and I was more worried about Gabubond, Jesmon, Agumon. That was kind of what I was worried about going into the tournament, but I kind of didn't consider the possibility of a road deck like that being really, really good in this format, and being like kind of a security control deck with Commandramon where you're just consistently replenishing the board is really good. I just didn't think it would succeed as well as it did because it has such a rough matchup against Gabubon, who can keep bottom decking your Digimon and really stopping you from being able to go for game. So I'm going to make some tweaks in my deck. Definitely was happy with how it performed. I'm happy with how I played as well, taking second place. That was really good. I've earned an invite to the June tournament, so that's pretty exciting. And I'm going to be playing again on next Wednesday, so in 2 days, actually, from the posting of this video. So if you're interested, come check me out. I'll be streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/MontyTalks. But until next time, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll be back with more deck profiles in the future.